welcome to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet the daughter.
And I'm Kevin the dad. And hey, it's Labor Day weekend. It's the end of the crappiest summer ever.
And into crappy fall and crappy winter. And I love fall and winter, but we're not gonna have trick-or-treating for Halloween. There's not gonna be a parade for Thanksgiving. It just sucks.
On the other hand, we get to eat all the candy ourselves.
That's true. And at a discount the next day.
That's true.
But in the meantime, we're still gonna be podcasting. Pandemic or no pandemic. So today, after our last episode, I was like, I want to do something fun. Something I like for a change.
Okay.
And I was like, screw it, we're doing David Bowie. So, Dad, what David Bowie album are we talking about?
Well, Juliet picked Ziggy Stardust, or the complete title, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. I mean, if you just look at the album cover, only the words David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust stand out. Because the man wants you to know.
It's him.
It's him.
Yeah.
And then in teeny weeny little letters, it's The Rise and Fall of and the Spiders from Mars. You know, those three guys who kind of helped out by banging on the instruments.
Yeah, he didn't give them as much acknowledgement as he could have until years later.
Well, yeah, even on the side of the jewel case, it's just called Ziggy Stardust.
Oy. Oh, Bowie.
Now, if you want a biography of David Bowie, please refer to our Let's Dance episode.
Yep. I gave a full biography then.
Now, Let's Dance and Ziggy. I mean, it's hard to believe that the same guy made both those albums within the space of a dozen years of each other.
Oh, shoot, that's right. I guess that is kind of close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 72 and 83.
Yeah.
Now, Ziggy is one of the ultimate 70s albums. Let's Dance is what? No, it's not one of the ultimate 80s albums.
Really? I would have said it was.
Well, you're a big Bowie fan.
Well, wasn't it everywhere, though, you said, when it came out?
Yeah, I think, like, singles-wise, you couldn't escape it, and there was the videos. But I think for a test of time kind of thing, I don't know. But anyway...
I say that album still holds up, but whatever. This is
it does. I mean, I am not knocking it.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it. But as for an ultimate 80s album...
It's Bowie's version of an ultimate 80s album.
Yeah, I suppose.
So Back to Ziggy.
So maybe in that way it's timeless. But yes, anyway, Ziggy is the glammest of glam rock albums. The songs were influenced by Lou Reed, Mark Bolan, also known as T-Rex, but that was also the name of the band he was in, and Iggy Pop.
Oh my god, I wonder if anyone made that joke.
I'm sure people have.
Yeah.
Anyway, the character of Ziggy was inspired by English rocker Vince Taylor, who Bowie had met after Taylor had had a breakdown, convinced that he himself was a cross between a god and an alien.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Another influence was Norman Odom, also known as the legendary Stardust Cowboy, who was a psychobilly pioneer from the early 60s. And psychobilly is basically like rockabilly meets, like, insanity.
That sounds interesting.
It is. A third influence was Kanzai Yamamoto, who designed Bowie's costumes for the tour.
Yeah, and they're excellent. They're wonderful
and
costumes.
He does that one with, like, the big legs, like...
Yes.
I don't know what you call that thing, but that's pretty wild.
It's the black and white striped one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you Google it, then it's one of Bowie's more iconic outfits, so everyone's seen it.
The pantaloons.
The pantaloons and the red shoes underneath.
The parachute pants with the parachute open, like really, really open.
I think he also designed a kimono for Bowie for when he went on tour in Japan.
Yeah.
Ziggy, yeah.
Now, it's a rock opera. It's a concept album, even though the concept came after the songs were recorded. And this is according to Bowie.
Okay, so it's gospel.
And I promise not to do my bad Bowie imitation.
Aww.
Anyway, okay, so what he said was, what you have here, what you have there on that album, when it finally does come out, is a story which doesn't really take place. It's just a few little scenes from the life of a band called Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, who could feasibly be the last band on Earth. It could be within the last 5 years of Earth. I'm not at all sure. Because I wrote it in such a way that I just dropped the numbers into the album in any order that they cropped up. It depends in which state you listen to it in. And, that works for me. I mean, straight from the horse's mouth, fine.
Imagine listening to this album on drugs. Because there are certain albums where it's like just on the content of them, I imagine, what would it be like listening to these on drugs? Like I have that with this, I have this with Sgt. Pepper. I'm trying to think of other ones.
All of Pink Floyd.
All Pink Floyd, yeah.
Okay. So it is also looked on as one of the, if not the defining album of, and I'm not making this up, but maybe Wikipedia is, gay rock. I don't know if that's a real genre,
I
but
haven't
that's
heard it.
what it's called.
Any LGBTQ listeners want to confirm or deny?
I mean,
we don't know.
They also use the term drag rock, which I've never heard of those, but for me, it's just going to be glam rock.
I've only heard of glam rock, which, as John Lennon said, was rock and roll but with lipstick on.
Yeah. I mean, it said that Bowie had come out in December of 71, which garnered publicity in both the UK and the US, but it wasn't the big deal that you would think it would have been back then for some reason, because maybe people just weren't surprised.
Yeah, it's like with Bowie, it's like I don't think anybody assumed that he was straight. I mean, he came out as bisexual, just in case you're wondering his sexuality.
Yeah, but which probably makes more sense.
Yeah.
You know, being married twice.
Yeah, and people were like disputing it. Was he doing it for the publicity? Was it actually his sexuality? I'm willing to lean on it's his sexuality. Why would he make that up for shits and giggles? He's not the kind of guy to do that.
Well, because there was also a thing in my research where, you know, when he came out, that his manager was shocked, I say. But then someone figured out, well, no, he probably was in on it too, for like, hey, this could be a good, you know, publicity move. Anyway.
But he's still regarded as kind of like an LGBTQ
icon.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, the songs were written around the same time as Bowie's previous album, Hunky Dory.
Yes, they were.
The musicians on that album were Mick Ronson on guitar, who died of liver cancer in '93.
Rip Mick.
Trevor Bolder, who was on bass, who died of pancreatic cancer in 2013. Mick Woody Woodmansey on drums, still alive.
Yep, and a Scientologist.
And Rick Wakeman, keyboards, still alive. Now, when it came time to record Ziggy, Wakeman passed as he wanted to join Yes, who was a prog rock group that I'm not sure if you've ever heard of.
No, what happened to them?
They were famous for doing really long songs.
Oh.
I mean, the ones that you might know would be Roundabout.
I've heard of that one, but I don't know if I've listened to it.
Then in the early 80s, they just came out of nowhere and had these huge hits. Owner of a Lonely Heart was the big one. Changes was another one. And the thing that I thought was...
as in changes?
No, that's... No.
Okay. I didn't know if they were doing a cover of it or not.
And the thing was, when Yes toured in the 80s, their opening act...
Was Bowie?
Was Bugs Bunny shorts. They would just show a couple of Looney Tunes cartoons and then come out and play, which I thought, that's genius.
That's fun.
Having Bugs Bunny on the big screen, you can't beat that.
I would like to see that done more often. Just show some cartoons before the start of a concert.
And you had better be a damn good opening main act
to follow
Bugs Bunny.
Speaking of Bugs Bunny, have you seen that cartoon where it's like how Bugs Bunny could have stopped Thanos?
No.
Oh, you need to look at that later. It's so funny.
Okay. Now, so where is Hunky Dory? If you want to know what Hunky Donkey means, go watch Christmas in Connecticut to get that reference.
With Barbara Stanwyck. Christmas in Connecticut, because it kind of gets slurred.
Yeah. So whereas Hunky Dory was piano-led, due to Wakeman being on the album, Ziggy was more guitar-based. And thankfully, Bowie was more engaged in the recording process than he had been on previous albums.
Yes.
It was kind of like, do whatever you want to do. So he was actually able to tell the band what he was looking for sound-wise, which was a help to them all, especially to Mick Ronson.
Yeah.
Because he said for like other albums, it was kind of like he really wasn't sure what Bowie wanted, and Bowie wasn't really forthcoming, and it was kind of like, well, I'll just do whatever.
Well, I remember Woody Woodmansey saying in his book, because I read it, he said that David Bowie would come up with something kind of out there on edge in terms of what he wanted the musicians to do, and they'd be thinking, why the hell does he want us to do that? And then they'd hear it and they'd go, oh, now it makes sense.
Okay. Now, Ziggy was Bowie's second album for RCA. Hunky Dory was the first, and Hunky Dory got a lot of raves, but it sold poorly due to RCA not promoting it.
Boo!
Now, recording sessions for Ziggy were in July of 71, then from November 71 to January 72. As late as December 71, the title was going to be Round and Round because Bowie had recorded a cover of the Chuck Berry song of the same name.
Is that out there somewhere?
It could be. I mean, I know that there's a box set called 5 Years, which goes from 69 to 73. It could be on that. and I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what originally was going to happen, but RCA exec Dennis Katz was all, boys, I don't hear a single. So Bowie wrote Starman at the last minute to replace Round and Round.
Hell of a last-minute song.
Yeah, that's what people say. It's like, wow, this is, such a defining song of his. And you just tossed it off like, yeah, no big whoop.
It's like Mozart. He wrote all his music at the last minute and it just came out like, yeah, done. I'm going to go get drunk.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Now, as for the cover,
Mm-hmm.
the photo of Bowie outside of Kay West Furrier's was taken in monochrome. It was supposed to be the whole band, but it was starting to rain and the rest of the Spiders decided to stay inside. But Bowie, who had the flu, went outside.
That's commitment.
But he didn't want to go too far because he was feeling under the weather.
Yeah.
And Kay West was practically around the corner from where he was staying.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, the shot was in monochrome and it was later recolored. Now, as for Kay West,
Mm-hmm.
it either spells out quest,
Okay.
like
We're going
it's
on
some
a
sort of
quest.
journey, there's some sort of deep meaning in this album, or it heralds the coming of Kanye.
That'd be interesting.
Now, it really stands for Henry Kahn, and the West is because it was on the west side of London.
Okay,
Now,
that's where Bowie's from, I think, originally, anyway.
I guess so. Now, when the album came out, Kay West got very Britishy about it. Their solicitor contacted RCA and basically told them that Kay West did not want to be seen as having some sort of association with Bowie, a pop star, as it were. Quite. But people started making pilgrimages to Kay West to take photos, and Kay West realized, yeah, this could be pretty good for business.
Yeah.
So they backed off. The sign came down in 1991 when Kay West relocated, but in 2012 a plaque was put up to commemorate the spot.
Nice. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they were filming in Scotland, and the Scottish people were like, you can't have comedy here, we don't want you at our castle. But then when the film got really big, the castle became a tourist spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, on the back of the original vinyl LP cover, it had the instruction to be played at maximum volume.
Oh, that would hurt.
It also says this on the back of the Ryko version, and not all versions have this.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia anyway, but they could be wrong.
Yeah.
Now, the album was released on June 16th, 1972. It made it to number 5 on the British album charts and number 75 on Billboard. When Bowie died in 2016, it went up to number 21 on the Billboard charts. So death is always a good career move.
Yeah. That was a plot point on Lucifer where this singer died and you found out that she was murdered by her manager so her records would shoot to number 1.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Critics loved it. Got a lot of rave reviews for the most part. There were one or two where it was like, I don't know. Audiences were kind of trying to figure out, what's this?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Yeah.
The tour, they did the tour. It went from January 72 to July 73, promoting not only Ziggy, but the follow-up album, Aladdin Sane, which Bowie called Ziggy Goes to America because he wrote a lot of Aladdin Sane whilst touring the United States.
Yeah.
And Bowie said he came up with the Aladdin persona because he was feeling trapped by Ziggy. He said it just got to be too much.
Yeah, and plus Aladdin Insane. Lad Insane. You never knew that?
Of course I did. Come on. Okay, a movie was made on July 3rd, 1973 at the Hammersmith Odeon in London. Bowie said it was the last show they would ever do.
Yeah, and the band members didn't know.
Yeah, meaning as, he would never be Ziggy again.
Yeah.
Now, the movie was in post-production for years, and bits and pieces of it made it onto TV and like college film festivals, but it was finally released in theaters in 1983.
Did you see it?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, me neither.
I know that it's available on DVD. I'm sure you can find it on streaming somewhere. There's a soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Now, RCA put out the CD version along with the rest of Bowie's catalog in 1984. Now, at that time, CDs had just come out, so all the record companies were just like, let's spew out whatever we got. Let's just get it out there without any thought to, we should probably make them sound decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, little old Ryko Disc in Salem, Massachusetts somehow got their hands on Bowie's catalog and issued a remastered version in 1990, adding 5 bonus tracks. Now, I think the reason that Ryko Disc got it was because Bowie had liked the reissue work that they were starting to do. He felt that Ryko put a lot of time and effort into what they were doing, that they cared about what they were releasing. And I think that was one of the reasons why he went with them. So the 1990 version is the one that I have. It has a drill hole in the back, which means it's a promo copy. So obviously I got it used somewhere. I'd probably say maybe Newberry Comics or maybe In Your Ear.
Now, how'd you find out about Ziggy in the first place?
It was just one of those albums I always heard of. I mean, shoot, when this thing came out in 73, I was, 9 years old? I had no idea.
Yeah.
But, you know, you get older, you start picking up on music, and you hear about, you know, Bowie and Ziggy. I mean, the first thing I ever heard from him was Fame.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the Young Americans album. Because we, at the time, Uncle Joey and I and Nana were friends with a DJ at a Providence radio station.
Who is it?
His name was Dale Shaw. This was around 1975. And he would give us free promo albums sometimes, and one of them was Young Americans.
How did he know Nana?
I think it was because Uncle Joey had won some radio contest. He called, and they started talking. And he actually invited the guy to come over and visit, and son of a gun, he did.
Wow.
Yeah, this went on for about maybe a couple of years, and I think he ended up relocating back to Alabama.
Oh, wow.
So, Dale, if you're out there, hey.
Hi, Dale.
A straight, no pun intended, No Frills remaster came out in 1999 on Virgin. They got his catalog next, and for like all the Bowie albums, they didn't put on any extras. It was just plain remasters. Virgin also put out a 30th and 40th anniversary editions in 2002 and 2012, respectively. 50th anniversary is just 2 years away. Now, Rhino/Parlophone came out with another remaster in 2015. So maybe they'll do the 50th unless the catalog changes ownership again. See, I was surprised that it was Rhino/Parlophone because I thought it was Sony who had the rights to the catalog now.
I have no idea.
Unless it was just they had the rights to the recent stuff.
Maybe.
Because I think that's what Black Star came out.
I think Black Star was a Sony label.
Yeah, so maybe Rhino has like the back catalog rights. In 2017, Ziggy was selected for preservation in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress.
As it should be.
Okay, so let's get into the song, shall we?
All right, let's. With the first track, 5 years. So, a newscaster has just announced that the planet only has 5 years left before it dies, along with everyone else living on it.
What do we do? What do we do?
As someone who believes in scientists and climate change, this is my worst nightmare. 5 years is about how David Bowie's character starts thinking of the things he'll miss, how the rest of the planet goes nuts, and eventually what happens when the 5 years are up. Boom! I like how the drums played a constant rhythm and tempo throughout the song, like a ticking clock, and it's the first and last thing you hear on the track. The chaotic arrangement of the instruments at the end works, along with Bowie screaming his head off to sound like the end of the world, especially with the drums taking center stage at the end of the show. Once everything is gone, it'll all be quiet, just like it was in the beginning. That's like the little moment where Bowie sees the object of his desire drinking milkshakes in an ice cream parlor and says, "Don't think you knew you were in this song," which is really interesting because if you were dying and there was someone you had feelings for, some people would advocate telling that person right away. However, it sounds like Bowie wrote this song for this person to find after he died, which is kind of weird since everyone's gonna die together. Then again, maybe he did show the person before they all died, so there you go. Now, I almost posted 5 years on Facebook when Trump got elected, but all of my friends were too depressed, so I thought better of it and decided not to. Yet, I find it an odd choice to start the album because you'd think it'd be played after Ziggy dies and everything else goes to shit. If I had to pick an opening track other than this, Starman would be my number one choice, unless maybe this is Bowie foreshadowing the story that's going to play out across the album.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is foreshadowing. It's like, okay, we got 5 years. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Who's that coming from space? Is it Ziggy? Is he going to save us all? Or is he going to bring us to our doom?
Well, we find out, don't we?
I don't know. Yeah, I love how it starts off with the drums. It almost kind of sounds like an irregular heartbeat.
Yeah,
but it's a consistent regular heartbeat. It's a nice drum sound at first, which does not happen a lot on Bowie's early stuff. Because for me, it's like he wasn't the greatest producer in the world for his stuff. I mean, if you want proof, listen to the job he did on Raw Power by the Stooges. The drums sound like wet cardboard.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. And you notice as like the other instruments come in on 5 years, the drums recede further and further into the background.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's me because I play drums and it's like
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of that. But I think overall, the album kind of has almost like a muted sound.
Yeah,
Which,
I know what you mean.
and I wish that Bowie had made Eno earlier because you listen to that stuff and it's like, it's
In
right
your face.
there.
Yeah, the Berlin trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got 5 years before Earth gets destroyed by something. Yeah. Now, this reminds me of a DC comic miniseries from the 80s called Slash Maraud.
Mm-hmm.
I never read it, but the tagline was, "Everyone on Earth dies in 5 years. Let's party."
Mm-hmm.
And allegedly it's these aliens who kind of like come to Earth and they're going to destroy it eventually. And they all kind of look like Ernie.
From Sesame Street?
From Sesame Street. But like a hairier faced version of Ernie. It's just like they've got all this hair.
Huh.
And you're looking like, hey, that's Ernie. He needs a shave.
Oh. But one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly is we talked about this album once before at your Seekonk Music Club with Ben.
Yeah.
The Seekonk Public Library. I think maybe that was like kind of like the podcast in its infancy. Because we would discuss albums track by track.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it was locked away in our unconscious mind. Could have been.
Oh.
Yeah.
And your point being?
I don't know, I just found it interesting.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about Ziggy, like going back then you said this about.
No, but I just remember it was after Bowie died, and we were all sitting around talking about it, and then we talked about some of Bowie's other stuff, including Labyrinth and some stuff. And Ben got the record player.
Yeah.
And put it on with the needle.
Now, it's interesting that you bring up the milkshake part because that's almost like, it's almost a reference to A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, the Milk Bar?
Yeah. And I think he does mention, I don't know, I can't remember if it's this song, but in one of them he mentions about the Droogs.
Well, Clockwork Orange, he said, he put it on a list of his 100 favorite books of all time. You could find the list online.
I think I kind of remember seeing that, and I have read that book.
How is it? What's better, the book or the movie?
Oh, man. The movie just, like, messed me up.
Yeah.
The book was easier to take, I suppose.
I remember I saw the Singing in the Rain scene when I was 13 years old. And I didn't know it was happening, so I laughed.
Yeah.
But now I know what that is, and I'm like, oh, no. Anyway, moving on. Next song, Soul Love. I remember not liking this song when I first heard it, but maybe it's because I wasn't the right age to appreciate the lyrics. But this song's music grooves in every sense of the word groove. From the drums and clapping to the acoustic guitar, to the saxophone, to the vocals, to the electric guitar, there's a lot of groovy head bobbing going on when you listen to this. Bowie focuses on 3 types of love. Love for the dead, first love, and eternal love or divine love, which in Greek is agape, meaning the highest form of love. I think the best lyric is talking about the woman who lost her son who, quote, gave his life to save the slogans, because it's a nice dig at military propaganda, and, being a podcast based in the U.S., the image that comes to mind is the Uncle Sam I Want You posters. I also think when Bowie says love is not loving, he means it's not enough to just experience these intense feelings, you have to act on them. That way you can show the other person you love them, because love is meaningless without reaffirming gestures, big or small. But Bowie is right. When you feel love, it's merciless, so you have to motivate yourself to act no matter what.
Now, I'm more familiar with Marty Jones's cover from her album Match Game.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, didn't Bowie, say, hey, that was great?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she does pick some interesting songs to cover.
Huh.
And maybe it's because I've heard her version 80 billion times, but I think she does a better job. But Bowie nails what love is like, though, when he has the lines about a boy and girl are talking new words that only they can share.
Yeah.
Which I think is genius. And it's when you meet that someone, it's like you're both on that same level, and the rest of the world just kind of
fades away.
Fades away. So the Earth is going to go bye-bye in 5 years, but damn it, people are still going to fall in love because there's just some things that you are not going to stop. And I think there was a movie about that too, a couple of years back, about how the Earth was going to end, but this woman falls in love with this guy, and I can't remember if he's like already married or something. I
Oh.
know it's out there somewhere.
That always happens in like times of war or like times that are catastrophic, where it's like people are getting married left and right because it's like, hey, we could all be dead tomorrow, so let's do this now.
Yeah. Hey, met that perfect one, and oh, they're dead. And
Well,
that is Bowie on the sax.
oh, that is him?
Yeah, he was. I think
Oh,
he
yeah.
was starting out as a sax player.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next song, Moon Age Daydream. The transition from solo up to this is immediate, and it's one of those transitions that is a wake-up call. If I had to give this song another name, it would be Starman Part 1, because this feels like the message Ziggy is transmitting to the people on Earth saying, I'm coming, and you are not going to be prepared. And the dream is so strong, people freak out. I think this song really shows the strength of Mick Ronson's guitar playing, and the coolest part is when the studio distorts the notes to make them sound like space static. The instrumental's also really cool, but I can't put my finger on what instrument is being used. All I can identify is the saxophone that joins to make a duet. You know, the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I remember reading online it was also his first use of some sort of synthesizer. This is Bowie, that is, which he would use a lot more when he teamed up with Brian Eno.
Oh, with Brian Eno.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think if I could have a ringtone on my phone, it would be that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Why not? Come on. What?
I'll get to my 2 cents. Are you finished with your?
Yes, I am. I'll give you 2 cents.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I really have no idea what this song's about. Allegedly, it's about Mark Bolan, who was Bowie's glam rival at the time.
Oh.
Like I said, he was in the band T-Rex, and then he became T-Rex himself.
Mm-hmm.
And their big hit was "Get It On, Bang a Gong, Get It On." You might or might not know that song. Anyway, that break in the middle that you were talking about, to me that sounds like early Laughing Gnome Bowie, where it's just like a little too Lord of the Rings type of dorkiness vibe going on, because it also would not, to me, that also would not be out of place on This Is Spinal Tap.
You mean this whole song or the
Yeah, that middle part. It almost kind of fits the about the druids. And
I love the druid scene so much.
Which one of them got trapped in the cocoon? I can't remember.
Oh, was it their drummer? The drummer
No,
who always dies?
No. I can't remember.
Was it Harry Shearer?
I think, yeah, Derek. Yeah. And it was hilarious. He finally breaks out, and the other two have already gone in. But yeah, it's just got that, like I said, it just has that Laughing Gnome feel about it. So that just cracks me up when I hear this song, which I'm sure was not Bowie's intention at all, but sorry.
All right.
But I do like the image of a Moon Age Daydream. Yeah. I have no idea what it means, but nice image.
If you go on YouTube and type in PBS blank on blank David Bowie interview, it's the series where they take interviews from famous or prolific people and they set them to animation. They do something really cute for Moon Age Daydream, and I really like it.
Okay.
All right, next song, Starman. Now we have part 2, where Bowie wakes up having gotten a late-night message from an alien they call the Starman, which we know as Ziggy. And much to Bowie's delight, he wasn't the only one. His friend heard it too, along with everyone else in the world. I find it kind of ironic that the song says he'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds, when in the previous song, Ziggy was referencing the people blowing his brains out. And it turns out everyone's minds are blown, but Ziggy's the one who will suffer the most because they didn't listen to him when he said not to blow it. As for Starman, Bowie said he wanted this song to be his Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and you do hear the same octave jump in both songs. Somewhere, Starman.
Over the rainbow?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the catchiest part is at the end, easily with the la, 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 which... La, 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 which I'll always remember because there's a scene in season 3 of The Crown where Princess Anne is driving back to Buckingham Palace playing this on her car radio, and the guards escort her back to the palace with lanterns because there's a blackout, and the whole time she's going la 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 la, just listening to it and jamming along. If I had to say which track on the album is the most iconic, it'd be Starman for sure, especially when it has over 180 million plays on Spotify.
Can't argue with those statistics.
Nope.
So, again, like I said earlier, this was written at the last minute to replace Round and Round. Well, let's pause, though. Can you imagine what this album would be like with that song on it, a Chuck Berry song?
That would have been
as
weird.
Realized as by the Spiders. I mean, like I said, it's probably out there on some box set or bootlegs or whatever.
Maybe it could have been released as its own single.
Yeah, I think, or a B-side, or just, maybe as a B-side.
Maybe not even a B-side. Just on its own, by itself. Because even with a B-side on this album, I don't think it would really work.
As Charlie Brown says, it staggers the imagination. Anyway, the Starman. I kind of looked at it as like a savior who comes on the radio playing his rock and roll, which to me makes sense because everyone must have that come to Jesus rock and roll moment where you hear something that changes you profoundly and you have to share it with someone.
So what was
which to me kind of happens in the second verse. And like when you have that moment where you realize everyone in the world needs to hear this, when you start going to people, there's going to be three reactions. One is going to be, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. No, that sucks. Or, well, yeah, what took you so long to get to this?
Or the fourth one, it's just okay.
Yeah.
So what was your come to Jesus moment?
For like rock and roll in general?
Yeah.
This is going to sound weird.
Okay.
Because it was the most unlikely source.
Okay.
But hearing the song Jumpin' Jack Flash by the Rolling Stones on Casey Kasem's American Top 40.
Okay.
He was doing some sort of flashback. It was the first time I ever heard the song in my life. And I just realized, oh my God, I can't believe what this guy's singing. I can't believe what this song sounds like. I want more of this, please. And it just like kicked open the door.
So is that why you're like, the Stones mean a lot to you?
You know, I kind of have a complicated relationship with the Stones.
Okay.
Because this may offend some of you people out there, but I don't care. To me, they are the ultimate singles band.
Okay.
They have, I mean, I look at my iPod and I have like over 100 of their songs that I absolutely have to have. Now, mind you, I actually have a couple of their albums.
You do?
I have Exile on Main Street, which everyone has. And the only other album of theirs that I have, which is not a compilation, is Tattoo You, because it just represents a certain point in my life as a teenager. So there's a lot of memories that go with that.
Right.
But yeah, for me, they're just always going to be the world's greatest singles band.
Right. Well, if you want to hear more thoughts about the Stones, then wait for our Rolling Stones episode.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Which could happen someday.
Yep. But anyway, back to Bowie. Next song, It Ain't Easy.
It ain't.
No. Once again, we have David Bowie using the number 3 with 3 different scenarios that aren't easy. The first thing is physical feats. Second is solving personal problems, be they your own or someone else's. And the third is having sex with another person. And I gotta say, those are pretty good picks in terms of stuff that isn't easy. And I remember the first time I heard the song with Bowie singing faintly in the background, I couldn't understand him at all because he was so quiet. Like, I was straining to listen to it, like, what's he saying? Because I didn't have the lyrics in front of me. And then the chorus kicks in, sounding like a choir singing at Fortissimo. If the album is telling a story, then this might be a filler song, like filler episodes of a TV show, but hey, it's still catchy as hell, so I skip it. And that's not a knock. Some TV shows have great filler episodes. Look at the Ba Sing Se episodes of Avatar The Last Airbender.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about It Ain't Easy is it ain't an original.
Oh, I feel lied to.
This is a cover song.
Oh, attention people of Bikini Bottom, you have been cheated and lied to.
Now, the thing is, critics don't like it because it has nothing to do with the main story. If there is a main story. Is there? Well, even Bowie wasn't sure. Okay. Now, there's been a case made that either the songs Velvet Goldmine or Sweethead should have been on Ziggy instead of this song. But Bowie felt that the first song was too provocative and the second too controversial.
Wait, 5 Years in So Love? Oh, no, the ones he was talking about. Okay.
Velvet Goldmine or Sweethead.
Okay.
Yeah, so he felt that the first one was too provocative and the second was too controversial, which I thought, how British, how polite, how unexpected that he would, because you'd think, wow, this is like the glam era. You'd think that he would just put these out.
Well, I have to say, even though the British love their sex jokes and their sex humor, they still have, in all other aspects of daily life, they have a certain reserve and a behavior. So maybe there are some things that the British stiff upper lip can't overcome as easily.
Now, both those songs, Velvet Goldmine and Sweethead, were tacked on as bonus tracks on the Ryko disc version.
Okay.
And the thing is, no one knew that the song Sweethead even existed until it came out on the Ryko version in 1990. And it was like, what?
Oh my god!
But I kind of look at the song this way. Maybe it's a song that the Spiders are playing in concert. You know, they're a band and they have to play something.
Yeah, they could do a cover
So,
song.
yeah, maybe this song is like, okay, you know, the band's actually in concert. This is one of the songs that they're playing.
I could buy that. Yeah.
So that's my contribution to the concept of the album.
Contribution to your PBS station from viewers like you.
Get a free tote bag.
Thank you.
That you could probably buy at Job Lot or Savers for $1, as opposed to sending in your $60 pledge.
You saying you don't care about Big Bird, Dad?
Let me tell you something. WGBH has buttloads of money. They're like the Harvard of public television stations.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're not hurting.
And Sesame Street is on HBO now. It airs on HBO first and then goes to PBS.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
So It Ain't Easy was the last song on side 1. So now we go to side 2. So we pause, the needle comes off, we flip the record over.
Yep, go to the bathroom, get a drink.
Yep, come back, put the needle back on, pop, pop, scratch, scratch, skip, skip.
Lady Stardust. I feel like this song is very autobiographical for Bowie because people really made his androgynous appearance a big deal because, you know, they had never seen someone look like that before. I'll never forget this one guy who said when he saw Bowie, he thought he was gay, and from the tone of his voice, it wasn't a word he said with a positive connotation. But he said that years later, when Bowie married the gorgeous supermodel Iman, he thought, oh, shoot, I could wear a dress. And this song pretty much sums up Bowie's experience. Here were all these people looking at him funny because his hair and makeup were different. But as soon as he started playing, people realized, oh, shit, this guy is great. Give us more. And this is the song where if it was played live, people would turn on their phone flashlights and slowly wave them from side to side. Just a nice song you could sway to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to me, this sounds a little like Elton John vocally and piano-ly. Is piano-ly a word? Like piano-wise.
Piano-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting you bring him up now. You'll see what I mean. You'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something in the way Bowie sings it and how, like, the style of piano playing is just very reminiscent of Elton John. And yeah, if you said Elton John did this instead of Bowie, I would have bought it, the whole thing. This may be, again, about Mark Bolan, you know, his rival.
Yeah.
And the line, I smiled sadly for a love I could not obey, comes from Lord Alfred Douglas, who was the lover of Oscar Wilde.
Aww.
So when you look at the line in that term, it's like, yeah, you probably couldn't get away with that at the time.
No.
I think that's why Oscar Wilde wound up in jail.
That might have been it, or maybe some other reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, next song, Star. Now.
Also, before you get into this, I think one of the other missions of this album was to see how many song titles can we put the word star.
1,
4.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, just 4.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Anyway, now,
almost half the album.
Yeah, Star.
Star.
Now, here's my opinion. If David Bowie wrote an Elton John song, this would be it.
Really?
Yes, this is my Elton John comparison. The song is fine. I think it succeeds with its poignant message. One of Bowie's friends tried to change the world. One of them went on a hunger strike. But Bowie knows he could change the world as a rock and roll star. Careful or you'll wind up like Bob Dylan with near suicidal poets on your doorstep. Or like, I think Goethe had that same problem as well. But it does,
really?
Well, there was one person, I forget who it was. There's a Hark a Vagrant comic about it. But anyway, the song does prove a sad point. The intellectuals and people fighting for change who should be idolized, at least today, are not, and everyone is obsessed with celebrities. However, Bowie was more than a rock and roll star. He was an artist, and there's a distinction between artist and celebrity. And if you want to see an example of Bowie doing good, Google Bowie MTV interview and watch him grill the reporter for not playing any music by black artists on their network.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's gold.
Yep.
He's like, you watch that with like a cup of tea and you're like, oh, Bowie, go off.
Yep.
He was not letting up. And just the look of disgust at the end of the video is something I will treasure for the rest of my life. But anyway, back to the song itself, but please Google that. It's just perfection. I said on Let's Dance that David Bowie's high notes were just towing the line between being out of his range and painful or uncomfortable. This one, he cannot hit those notes. He sounds like someone who isn't totally sure of their voice yet, and I don't think he was sure of his voice until the 80s, because by that time, he put out more stuff, he knew what he could do vocally, he's honed his instrument, and he had already taken over the world by then. Not my favorite on the album, might be a bathroom break song, but hey, if Elton covered it, I think it would work great.
I looked at it as like, Ziggy looks at his friends going off to try to change the world, and they can have it. Good luck to them. He just wants to rock. But has he succeeded? Because everything that he says is, I could. Like every line starts with, I could beat it. I could. Because he's just so wiped out with things as they are. I think it's a nice rocker. And since it's a nice rocker, hey, maybe he did make it. Well, of course he made it because this whole album is about him.
Plus he's David Bowie.
So this could be... Did you say you thought that this should be the song that starts off the album?
No, I said Stardust should be the song that starts off the album, not Star. No,
I
not
think
Stardust,
I think you can make a case for even Star starting it off because...
No, that'd be boring.
Well, no, because... Well, maybe that's why it doesn't, but maybe it could be in the second song because it's like, his friends are going off to change the world and he's at the point where like, yeah, I could, but then you realize, well, yeah, he did because... Now he's got him and
it's
his
like
band.
The little engine that could. I think I can. I can.
I knew you could. I knew you could.
All right, next song. Hang On to Yourself. Bowie's getting some in this one. He sees a fellow rock and roller and they are into him. But as he says, it's for the honey, not the money.
Wow.
And they're both attracted to each other, so he says, we've got a good thing going, but if we're going to do this, hang on to yourself because it's going to be a wild ride. However, I can't really say it's all good, clean fun because of the Tigers on Vaseline lyric. Don't play this song for Carol Baskin. Anyway, think about it. Tigers fighting covered in Vaseline.
Hey, all you slippery, cool cats and kittens.
Oh, God. Anyway, so think about it. Tigers fighting covered in Vaseline. What would that look like? Messy. Exactly. So Bowie is saying when they go at it, it's intense and it's messy. But
bodily fluids will be everywhere.
Yeah, but it's a lighthearted romp in the sack, no hard feelings. And at the end when he's saying, come on, it's not to get them to sleep with him anymore. It's to get something else out of them entirely. But I can't say exactly what it is on the interwebs here, so go listen to the song, and if you know, you know.
You know?
You know.
Okay, so I look at this kind of a little different from you. It's like, so a groupie's in town, ready for Ziggy. Like you said, just wants his honey, not his money. At first I thought this could have been about baby groupie Sable Star, and maybe it was. Baby groupies were in the early 70s. The reason they were called baby groupies was because they were only 14 or 15 years old at the time.
Statutory rape!
Yeah. Now, while researching Sable Star, and I actually found her obituary, and it was very short. I found it on this mortuary website. She had, in the 80s, she had ended up working for a casino, I believe, as a dealer. And her obituary was very short. It mentioned that, and also that she was a good golfer, and that was it. Didn't mention anything about her past, because I think she just wanted to get away with it and be done with it. Now, while I was doing research to figure out if this song was really about her, I came across Laurie Maddox, who was with Jimmy Page for a while, starting when she was 15. But before that, she first lost her virginity to
David Bowie. I know this story.
Yeah, during the Ziggy tour.
But she said, and I quote, "Who wouldn't want to be de-virginized by David Bowie?"
Yes, I must have read the same interview that you did.
But I'm like, honey, you were 15. He was a grown-ass man. That's fucking illegal. It doesn't matter if you consented to it. It's still statutory rape.
The 70s, such a different time. Now, did you read the one where the interviewer kept coming back and saying, yeah, but you realize this, was illegal? They could have been thrown in jail.
I think I might have read that one, but I don't remember.
And her thing was like, well, yeah, I knew what I was doing. Yeah, but you were only 15 at the time. What did your parents say? Didn't you realize?
I don't think she would have told her parents about this.
And then they got into the whole thing about, nowadays, I guess Drake was getting on some rapper Tiger because what's her name was only 17 at the time, and I thought, oh my God, Drake would have totally lost his shit if he had been around in the 70s. Yeah, they ain't cute.
No, do not diddle kids, to quote Frank Reynolds. Do not diddle kids.
I've had conversations with Andy about this, and he gets really, really upset about this whole thing. I mean, just outright angry.
For the women involved?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't blame him.
Yeah, because he thinks that, if like the interwebs had been around back then, so many of these guys would be behind bars now.
Oh, they'd have their asses hauled off in jail. I mean, if this happened to me, you'd be pissed off.
Oh yeah. I'd be at the local gun shop,
Yeah.
buying equipment to settle a score.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, moving from that unpleasant topic, in 1988, the Bangles came out with their third album, Everything, and Michael Steele wrote and sang the song Glitter Years about what it was like during that time. And at one point, she sings the line, "You better hang on to yourself." Now, people thought that it was Bowie sampled from the Ziggy song that was put on Glitter Years.
Yeah.
But actually, and it sounds just like him, but nope, it was her. She was the one who sang the line, and she does a damn good Bowie imitation.
And hey, if he never sued her, then,
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was probably like, yeah, that's kind of what it was about. And I think it was probably a confusing time for people, like for kids, wondering, am I gay? Am I not gay? Am I a girl? Am I a boy? I really don't know, but I'm just going to give it a shot.
Well, also, there wasn't as many resources back then for kids to discover who they were on their own, or no role models to look up to, really. So they were just kind of stuck.
Yeah, it was probably kind of like Bowie and
Freddie, probably later.
Yeah. And maybe, what was I going to say? I can't remember. But yeah, I guess probably just Bowie for the most part.
Yeah, because like back then it was like nobody was out at all. Like people only knew about it in private circles. I mean, I remember you saying one time you were at the meeting with another music meeting with Ben talking about Freddie Mercury, and you said in the 70s that if a person was gay, it was kind of like, you knew about it, but you didn't say anything. Like you just quietly acknowledged it.
Yeah. I mean, it probably wasn't until, I hate to say it, but it probably wasn't until the AIDS epidemic that people started
giving a damn.
Yeah, and coming out.
Well, I remember, because, like, just to sidetrack a little bit, but my undergrad thesis was on the AIDS epidemic, and I remember studying, the American public really, really didn't care. But then, when Rock Hudson was diagnosed and he was flown back from Paris on that helicopter, one of the members of the Gay Men's Health Crisis said they probably spent more money trying to get that shot of his body on the stretcher in the helicopter than they had done with any AIDS-related story all year. And that was kind of the incident that, sparked Hollywood to care and Elizabeth Taylor to co-found AMFAR, American Foundation for AIDS Research. But it still really sucks. It's like, people were dying. I remember, what was it? Out of the small number of people who were diagnosed, a third of them had died, and then the numbers grew and grew and grew. Mm-hmm. And the peak number of AIDS deaths was like in the mid-1990s, and it's like, okay, listen, I know why people didn't care because, they were bigots and assholes, but it's like, so many Americans fucking died because of this. And so many people still get diagnosed every year with HIV. It's like in the tens of thousands. And it's like, people think, oh, we got AZT, we got cocktail drugs, so it's all fixed now, right?
But
no!
That stuff is unaffordable.
That stuff is unaffordable. It cost $10,000 when it came out. Plus, people have allergic reactions to it, or sometimes it makes their health worse. And you're forgetting, there's still no fucking cure. Mm-hmm. There's no fucking cure. There's no fucking vaccine. So no, there's still a long way to go. Mm-hmm. Okay, rant over.
Okay.
All right, back to the album. All right, so Ziggy Stardust. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, the climax of the story. Give it up for Ziggy Stardust and oh shit, he killed himself. Oh, that's all, folks. We're out of here. Good night. So, one little fun anecdote, though. The opening guitar lick you hear, do-do-do-do-do-do, you could sing Chubby Little Loser. The song David Bowie wrote about Ricky Gervais on Extras. So, how did Ziggy die? Well, it can be summed up with Bowie's song Fame, but we're not talking about that today. Basically, the fans went a little too nuts, and it all went to Ziggy's head. And I guess this kind of reflects what happened to Bowie. Everyone loved the character Ziggy, then it got too crazy for Bowie, and he stopped and created the Thin White Duke, which was his darkest character, because that was when Bowie's addiction got really bad, when he used to live on a diet of cocaine and milk. And that's it. Just cocaine
The
and
white
milk.
diet.
The white diet, yeah. If you Google cocaine and milk, and if you Google photos of him at the time, the dude was skeletally thin. It was bad. I also think this may be Bowie kissing his own ass a little bit. Like, I don't think the dude was... like played at left hand, like he says in the song.
Well, to me, that play at left hand, I look at it as a reference to Hendrix.
Okay, But you hear snow white tan, God-given ass, and even well hung, and you can't help but roll your eyes a little bit. Still, he was Bowie and he was magnetic. He may not have been a stud, but according to Bowie's self-description, he packed it where it counted. And just to conclude, the lyric Ziggy played guitar, that hits different now knowing Bowie's gone.
And the thing is, the song starts and ends with that line.
Yeah.
Ziggy played guitar. And maybe that's all we need to know about him.
He played guitar. That's it.
But to me, it seems like this song seems to be out of order. I think this should have been the last song because, like you said, you know, he's been the fans have killed him. They've crucified him or what have you. And to me, it's like it's being sung by one of the other spiders.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe a fan who was like on the outskirts, like one of the fans who wasn't like a total.
Well, because towards the end he sings about when the kids killed the man, I had to break up the band. So.
Or maybe that's also Bowie foreshadowing what he knew would happen. It's like, eventually I'm going to have to kill this character off one day.
So he's kind of like disconnected himself from the character already. He's kind of looking at it from a third person point of view.
Maybe
he separated himself from Ziggy.
Yeah, or maybe he already knew. It's like there's only so much work I can get out of this album. Like he said in the Blank on Blank interview, he said, I knew that I was only going to get maybe 2 or 3 albums out of Ziggy, and when I couldn't do any more, I had to kill him off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great riff by Mick Ronson. Excuse me, sorry.
Boo!
Sorry.
Boo!
I think I could read my own writing. Because it's one of those defining riffs. Like as soon as you hear it, you know what the song is. It can't be any other song. It just can't. It's not allowed. Damn it. But I still think it's out of order. I think this should have come after Rock and Roll Suicide.
But
like I said earlier, it's like what did he say about it? He wrote it in such a way that he just dropped the numbers into the album in any order that they cropped up. So it's almost kind of like, hey kids, you can make your own version of this album. However, you think, however it makes sense to you. And now that we have, back when we had CDs, which we still do, you can program it in any order you want.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you could do like online. You could probably shuffle it to the way that you think it makes sense.
Yeah, the technology is out there enough where like anybody, even if you're not that well versed in like computer technology or computer software, anybody can do that.
Yeah, buddy, sure.
Yeah. Like look on Spotify, I could click and drag songs on my playlist to play it in the order I want.
Yeah.
So I could do this with Ziggy, but I don't think I'm going to. All right, next song, Suffragette City. Well, Ziggy's dead, and what's everyone going to do? Well, to quote Broadway.com's own Susan Blackwell, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone.
Wow.
And Bowie really needs to blow a load because the dude is stressed. That's the tone of the song.
That's my daughter, folks. That's my daughter.
Well, listen.
I blame her mother.
Well, here's why. School is nuts, work is a drag, and he needs to get his #1 loyal girl, Suffragette City. And all his friends want to squeeze in on the action, but Bowie says, nah, she's mine, you can't afford her anyway. And the rest of the song is basically Bowie describing the sex from, oh, hit me, which I don't think is literal, because I don't think Bowie was that freaky-deaky, to the moan, followed by the climactic, oh, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But then she keeps on going, and Bowie keeps going, ooh and ah, until there's a second abrupt climax with Suffragette, which, good for him, because as Vera said on Elders React, if you can do a round 2, do it while you still can.
What were the elders reacting to?
50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, jeez Louise.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway.
This is a great rocker, and you could almost imagine like Little Richard's in the background playing the piano, just the way it...
This is Little Richard influence for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he ever sang that song. Don't know.
I think he could have done great, but he would have had to alter the key. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I've always struggled with what Suffragette City means. Not the song itself, because it's pretty obvious.
I thought it was her nickname, the way I read the lyrics, because I used to think it was a place where you could like go and hook up with a girl. But then rereading the lyrics on Google, I was like, oh, maybe that's her nickname, like, her street name or something.
Because when I hear Suffragette, the first thing I think of is women's voting rights.
Yeah, well, that, and I think of Mary Poppins with the mom.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just a Suffragette song, yeah.
And then you've got that pause where it's like one of the great false endings ever until we get to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and then it's like
round 2, here we go.
Yep. Great song. Have no problem with it at all. Again, I kind of think it feels out of place, but I like your theory behind it. I will definitely buy that. Like,
Nice.
okay, the world's ending. I'm gonna love the one I'm with, and here comes the bomb.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of like, I know this movie got a lot of bad reviews, but when we went to see A Million Ways to Die in the West, I remember where it was like Liam Neeson's character was like gonna come into town and kill everybody, and you have that one character whose girlfriend is a prostitute and he's a virgin, and he's like, well, if the world's gonna end, then I want to sleep with my girlfriend. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because I think a lot of people who do that, it's like, wait a minute, I'm gonna die and I haven't had sex yet? Screw that, I need to screw someone.
I like that movie. It wasn't the best movie in the
too.
world, but it was dumb fun.
Yeah, it was dumb fun and I thought it was cute. Alright, anyway, final song, Rock and Roll Suicide. We end our story with a washed up rocker. Maybe it's Ziggy, maybe not. And Bowie approaches the person with the same frantic yelling as before, maybe as a fan saying, you've got so much more to do, and hey, you're not alone and we're here to help. And I find that a nice message to end with because people need to hear it more, even though people are like, oh, it's so simple. But it's always a good reminder. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or receiving it. And I wonder if this was Bowie maybe wondering if he'd end up this way when he was no longer famous. So he wrote it as a reminder that if he did lose fame and fortune, it would all turn out okay eventually. But I don't think the dude could ever have predicted that he'd become God tier. But it's a nice, heartwarming message that doesn't feel out of place because it's sincere. And maybe after the story we were told, we need a reassuring ending, if not a happy one. And the final chord on the string instruments, icing on the cake.
Uh-huh. To me, this song is similar in structure to 5 Years, and maybe that's why it ends with this song. Because it starts off quiet, then the instruments come in and they're building, and then Bowie's getting louder and louder.
Well, for me, I was like, maybe this is equivalent of the Beatles' A Day in the Life, ending Sgt. Pepper.
Oh, hell yeah, because the strings at the end to me are just so reminiscent, except they don't go on for 30 plus seconds of like that long chord that's, is it going to end? Is it going to end? It's not ending. Why isn't it ending? Oh, okay, it ended. Where this is like you get 5 seconds if even.
And then done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Record starts skipping.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, actually, the needle would go all the way off, lift itself off, and then come back and settle down.
And then you hear the pop and crackle.
Needle nest.
Mm-hmm.
And
Holder,
that would be,
slot.
Yeah, and just see, it's tough because again, I'm gonna say, I think Ziggy should have ended this album, but then the way that Rock and Roll Suicide ends, like you said, that it's like, yeah, we've just been through this tough time, but where there is light, there is hope.
Mm-hmm. All right. Overall, this album is awesome. I think I like it better than Let's Dance, but my opinion may change. And I did not expect to like this album so much since it wasn't my favorite before, and I preferred Let's Dance originally.
Interesting.
Yeah, but hey, maybe I understand Bowie's songs better at different points in my life, and it's nice to know because even if I don't get it now, I might one day, and no matter what happens in my life, his music will always be there for me. A shame there won't be any more.
Unless they start raiding the vaults.
See, does he have an estate or something?
I don't know.
Okay, because it's all gonna depend on what he left for the lawyers to do, or what. Because his wife is also very protective of his legacy now that he's gone. She's very protective of that and her daughter. So I think if there are any releases from the vault, they're gonna have to get Iman's approval.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So she's like his Yoko. Oh no.
No, she's way better than Yoko. She seems like a nicer person than Yoko too.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, that's tough because you've got some people. It's like once they're gone, they just start spewing out everything. Like when Hendrix died, all this stuff just came out that probably wasn't meant to come out. Unfinished stuff, demos, what have you, just all got spewed out there. Yeah, and there's a reason that there's stuff in the vaults because they probably felt, yeah, this just isn't finished, this isn't ready. But I guess record companies figure, well, the fans are gonna want something. They're gonna want something new. They probably don't care what the hell it is, and then the fans buy it and they're like, oh my god, I think their legacy just got tainted.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, just and that's like with bands who break up. If you break up, stay broken up because comeback is never going to be as good as the original first go round.
No, I mean the only times I don't mind it when they reunite is when they do like an anniversary performance, but they don't put out anything new. Or like how, look at what happened with Cream when they had to reunite, because Ginger was out of money, and so they did the concert at Royal Albert Hall because, they didn't want their friend to be broke.
Yeah.
So reunite for nice, wholesome reasons.
And I mean, in that case, it was like the Royal Albert Hall shows were great, and they did the New York ones, which weren't that great, which is kind of the reverse of their first go-around.
Oh, yeah, they were good in America, but not in England.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there are some bands that, like, they'll get back together for, like, certain anniversaries or whatever, or even for, like, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But then that's it. They just go their separate ways again.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Ziggy's definitely of its time, the 1970s and all its sex, drugs, and rock and roll and wall-to-wall decadence.
Yep.
I mean, it was just like anything and everything goes. That was the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's still a darn good album. As for it being a masterpiece, I think that's up to the listener. I'm more of an Eno era Bowie fan myself. I just love that stuff.
Okay.
I do.
So how come you only have Heroes and not Lodger or the other?
Yeah, I got a lot of catching up to do. I'll admit that.
Yeah. Oh God, what's the other one? I'm such a bad fan. It's
Low.
Heroes, Lodger, and Low. God damn it. All right. Oh, someday you should go online. There's an interview that Bowie does, I think, with an Irish TV show host where they play a game where it's, can you remember the 70s? They played it with Mick Jagger. He was abysmal. But what they do is they play the first 5 seconds of one of Bowie's songs from the 70s.
Yeah.
And the first one they do is, all right, let's see if you know this one. And they play from 5 years. And Bowie's looking around like, how the hell am I supposed to get anything off of that? But then he goes, oh, 5 years. It's really fun.
Pretty bad when you don't know your own stuff.
Hey, I don't think he listens to his own stuff all the time. Like, I'm sure there are some rock and roll artists who are like such narcissists or so washed up that they just listen to their old stuff to remember the good old days. But at that time, he had just married Amon, and I think they were getting ready to have a kid, so he probably had other stuff on his mind.
Yeah, I guess probably rock and rollers or any artist, they probably don't look back on their stuff. It's like,
no.
It's like, do we really expect movie stars to watch their movies? No, because they've gone into something else, or
if you're Norma Desmond.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, that's what you have the fans for, because there's always that case where it's like the fans remember a lot of details that actors forget.
Yeah, like remember that time you were with the Beatles?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And
speaking of Bowie's Low album,
yes,
Low by Bowie.
Yeah.
Nick Lowe put out his own album, an EP called
Bowie.
Yeah, but since Nick Lowe spelled his name Lowe, he spelled Bowie Bowi.
Oh, I like that.
And he created the album cover perfectly, and it is hilarious. I mean, guy's got a good sense of humor. I like to think Bowie himself thought it was hilarious.
Oh yeah, he and Nick Lowe were friends.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
Probably especially after that.
Yeah. And on that note, as always, thank you for listening to another episode of My Dad Listens to This. If you like this video, great. If you didn't, are you really going to dislike a video about David Bowie? Are you really? You don't have the guts. So,
Thank you, Stewie.
Yeah. But if you have any specific thoughts you want to let us know, please comment down below. If you want to know when our videos are published, hit the subscribe button or the bell if you want to be notified right away. You can get the episodes also through my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, or my Tumblr, or if you want them from my dad, just shoot him an email and he can email the episode to you. Thank you for listening again. We will be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Any other final words, Dad?
Yeah, one of us is back in school taking 6 classes for the semester and also be involved in the play.
And a thesis.
So, don't know how regular our podcast episodes will be, but we will put them out when we can.
We'll do our best.
And thank you for listening.
All right, see ya. Bye, Starman.